Business owner, I own two businesses, and I'm a father of two sons. I don't know. Anything else? Used to be a piece of shit. Working on that day. Sorry, I came out of the gate swinging on that one. I'd known for a long time that I was an alcoholic and a drug addict, and actually the drug addict part didn't really kick in until I got older, but I knew that I was different, and, just the way I felt inside, the way I interacted with people and stuff like that, I'd known for a long time that I was a definite alcoholic. It gave me the freedom to be kind of who I wanted to be at a younger age. And then as I got older, it progressed into who I didn't want to be. So my addiction, it progressed all the way in my 20s, and my sons now are 22 and 18, and so the time they were growing up, I would just drink on weekends and at the evening, typical evenings and stuff like that, and then it really got worse, and I'd always wanted to be a good father, somebody that they could look up to, because I didn't have that as a child growing up, and and I always wanted that, but then after a while I saw the alcohol started taking it away from me, and I started isolating a lot at my shop at night, and it really brought me into a state of depression, shame, guilt. I did a lot of bad things that, in my addiction that I'm still not proud of, and I'm still working on that forgiveness of myself right now. But I got to a point of such desperation. I remember I would sit there at night when I was drinking and using, and I'd just look up and I'd be like, God, when are you going to help me become the person that I want to be? Because I'd had this vision in my head for a long time of what the kind of person that I wanted to be, a successful business owner, a successful father, husband, all these things that I wanted to be in life. But the alcohol and drugs didn't allow me, well, I didn't allow myself to do it. I let the drugs and alcohol be an excuse for me to not become the person that I wanted to be. But then after a while, I couldn't stop. There was a point in time where I could stop for a couple weeks, and then I tried AA for about 8 or 9, maybe almost 10 years, and I'd go to AA meetings, and it wasn't for me. I mean, the AA meetings, I'd walk into a group and I'd be like, not me, definitely not me, and I sure in the fuck didn't do what that guy did, and then I'd be like, man, this and that, and so there, I'd go 6 months without drinking and drug. Well, okay. I'd go 6 months without drinking, but I did the marijuana maintenance program. I did other things, and I'd just smoke weed and stuff and not drink. But in 2015, I was in a motorcycle wreck. I'd been sober for 9 days, and had one of those days where I was just fucked. I was a mess, and she's my ex-wife now. She's like, you should probably go to a meeting tonight. And so I got on my Harley, I cleaned it all up, and threw my headphones in, my helmet, and I was heading to a meeting. And I got about 3 to 5 minutes away from our house, and I live in Grapevine, and I was driving down the road, and a car pulled out in front of me, and my T-boned it right in the side, and remember landing on the ground, and this lady was standing there, and she's like, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah. And she's like, what hurts? And I'm like, my fucking ass. And because I felt like my back was broken. She's like, what about your shoulder? And my shoulder was hanging like 6-8 inches out of the socket. And so ambulance comes, my ex-wife come, and they're on the street. My kids are looking at me, and they're loading me into the ambulance, and I get to the hospital, and I remember it took them 3 times to put my shoulder back into socket. They would try to put it in, it wouldn't go in, and they'd put morphine and then bring me Dilaudid and morphine and Dilaudid and all these drugs that they were putting in me. And I'd left the hospital. And it's what was crazy is I remember waking up after each time the doctor tried setting it in there, and I'd look over at my kids, and the look on their faces, they were just like, what in the fuck is he doing? Because I was kind of out of it. I was high as a kite, and I left the hospital, and they gave me a prescription of Oxycontin, and it was supposed to last 2 weeks, and I did the whole prescription in about 4 days because it said as needed, and I'm terrible with instructions. It says as needed. I was in constant pain, and so depleted the prescription, and then it led to more. And kind of to go back on the story a little bit, my mom to this day is still a full-blown addict, and she's in active addiction. And my whole life growing up, I saw her taking pain pills, and it devastated me, and it's affected our relationship big time. And it just saddens me that she's still in that addiction. But I told myself, going to get addicted to pills. Fuck. I left that hospital. Addicted to, God damn it. Addicted to pain meds. I didn't know it at first. And it took a while, because it was a long process. I'd ended up breaking my shoulder in 2 places, dislocating it, and I had surgery like 2 weeks later, and they had to put like 20 plastic screws in there. And it was one of those things where it's kind of funny. They did the MRI on this shoulder, and so they thought it was just a slight tear. And when they went in here, they're like, nothing's wrong with it. And so they looked at this one, and it was completely destroyed. And so it was going to be like an 1.5-hour surgery, and it ended up being almost 8-hour surgery. And so I came out, and I was on a morphine drip, and all these things. And then the pain pills came in, and I told myself that I'm not going to drink anymore, because I was actually headed to an AA meeting when I got in my motorcycle wreck. And when I started coming to, I started getting the feeling from the pain pills, and it made me feel good, and I didn't need the alcohol anymore. So I went 2 years without drinking, and I was only on pain pills. But those 2 years of being on those pain pills, then I got on Adderall, and then I got on Xanax. I found a new meaning to life, and it was in the form of a pill. And it completely changed my life. It completely spiraled it. And then after about 2 years, I started drinking casually because I figured I could handle it again. And then cocaine got involved. And then I started smoking cocaine, which is crack. And it just, I spiraled out of control so fast to where I didn't want to live anymore. I mean, I remember a couple weeks before I'd gone to treatment, that I remember looking up in my office, in my shop, and I was just out there, and I was like, just take me. I'm done. I don't even want to live anymore. I want to be out of here. And I said, if you did exist, why the fuck can't you help me get better? About 2 weeks later, I had, it was on Super Bowl Sunday, actually. We usually had a big Super Bowl party, and my ex-wife, she said, we're not going to have a Super Bowl party this year. And I'm like, why? And she goes, something's off with you. Well, I've been smoking crack every day for about a month. And she didn't have any idea. And so we talked that night, and she said, what is going on with you? Have you started the pills again? Because I'd quit the pills about a month ago, but then my addiction to cocaine, and I was smashing up my Adderall, I was smashing up my Vicodin, I was smashing up all my pills, I was snorting them, then I was smoking crack, I was snorting cocaine. I mean, I was anything and everything I could put in my body to just not feel anything. And I remember telling my ex-wife at the time that I was smoking crack, and the look on her face was of complete shock. It's sometimes embarrassing to say, but I'm not embarrassed of it anymore, because it's who I am today. And I wouldn't be sitting here today if I didn't admit my faults and go through it. But I remember sitting there and looking at the look on her face, and she couldn't believe it. And she's like, we'll get through this. And I said, okay. And so the next morning, I got up, and we were supposed to have this talk and everything. And I went straight to the trap house and got more drugs and started using that next morning. And my friend called me that night. Well, she had called him and told him that I was still using, and he asked me, he said, what are you doing? I said, and it was about 2:00 in the afternoon. I said, I'm getting high, smoking crack, and drinking. And he said, all right. He says, why don't you do me a favor? I said, all right, what's that? And he goes, why don't you try to overdose on smoking crack tonight? He said, I want you to just get as fucked up as you can and have as much fun as you can tonight. And I said, okay, perfect. And I said, why tonight? And he goes, because you're going to go you're going to go to treatment tomorrow. And I said, okay. And inside of me, I was so excited and I was so relieved, but I didn't know why. And so I went out and I got as high as I could. I'd spent like $1,200 that night on crack and other things, and drugs and everything. And I'd used all night. And the next morning I called him, and he said, call Right Step or Valley Hope. And so I called Valley Hope, this treatment center in Grapevine. to see if they have a bed for you. And I said, okay. And I called them that morning, and I was hoping they didn't have a bed. I wasn't finished yet. And I called and I called the front desk and told them my name, and they said, okay. And I asked if they had a bed, and they said, we do. And inside I was like, fuck, that sucks. And then the other part of me was like, all right, let's go. Let's do this. And so I packed a bag. My buddy Daniel came over, picked me up at the house. At 6:30 that morning, I was out in the garage getting high and drinking. And I'll never forget, I'd walked into the house and I dropped a beer can in the garage, and I turned around and both my sons had walked down the stairs. And they're both looking at me. And the amount of shame and the guilt that I still hold to this day, I hope never goes away. Because I don't ever want to forget that moment of the look of disappointment in their face. Because checking in to Valley Hope was probably one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life. Because I thought only losers went to treatment. I thought only losers had to get help, that we had this thing called self-will, that I could get myself out of this. And not going to Valley Hope and not getting the help you need, that's for, in my opinion, that's for, I don't want to say losers, because nobody's a loser in this thing, man. I mean, addiction's a motherfucker, and it doesn't discriminate to who you are, what you are. It's some people can go in and get the help and other people can't. It's frustrating when you. Anyway, we'll get to that. But so going into Valley Hope, I remember walking in and being so disgusted with myself, and the lady checking me in. And so my buddy Daniel that brought me into treatment, I had taken him to a treatment center 10 years prior. And he's willing me driving into the circular driveway at Valley Hope, and he said, I was here 10 years and 2 weeks ago, and now I'm dropping you off here. And I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. And so I go in, I get checked in, and remember the lady, I was walking down, I said, well, I guess this is my walk to shame. And she goes, no, this is your new this is going to be your walk of your new life. And I remember turning around, looking at her, I said, we'll see about that. And that was February 7th of 2018. And it's been the coolest ride that I've ever been on. I still go up to Valley Hope about 4 or 5 days every week. I take meetings in there on Mondays. This part I get emotional because I get to do these things now. I love being able to be a part of Valley Hope. I take meetings in there on Mondays and Wednesdays. We have a meeting in the cafeteria. And then on Tuesdays and Fridays, we get to go in and speak to the patients about addiction, about trying to help them. And then we'll get sponsees and we'll be able to work with them. And it's just such a cool process, man. I mean, it's anybody going through addiction that has any amount of time knows that it is a roller coaster. You go through depressions, you go through anxiety, you go through fear, all these different emotions that one can go on a daily basis. It's pretty incredible. But the coolest part is being able to do this sober now. My way of fixing any problem that I had before was getting drunk or high, and that's how I would fix everything. And now being able to use it with the program, especially with sharing my experience, strength, and hope with others inside Valley Hope, it allows me the I don't want to say freedom, but it allows me the opportunity to go in and share my experience with other alcoholics and other drug addicts, give them some hope and give them some faith that this program does work, because I use the 12 steps of the AA program, and it has 100% worked for me. I do a little bit of work on it every day versus getting high or drunk every day that I used to do for anywhere from 16 to 18 hours a day. And now I do about 3 or 4 hours, if that, with a meeting every day. And it's completely saved my life, changed my life. Everything that addiction took from me, I'm regaining it back now tenfold. And it's an incredible way to live. And I appreciate every experience and every opportunity that comes at me now with open arms. I mean, some of the things that I'm being a part of now is just it's incredible, and I'd have never been able to do this if I was still drinking or using. I mean, being clean and sober and having a clean mind and giving back and helping is 100% to me where it's at. In my addiction, if I wanted something, I needed something in return. You were going to give me something back if I helped you. There was no question that I was not doing anything unless I was getting something out of it in return. Now, I don't want anything. The only thing I want is to help, and I just want to help the other people because that's what was given to me, especially when I went to Valley Hope. The staff, the counselors, the nurses, the kitchen staff, everybody there just gave so freeing and willingly, and they still do. I mean, I still talk to a lot of people that I had opportunity to work with when I was there. They're still there, and they're still giving, and they're still doing the same thing, and I love each and every one of them. And it's a cool process, man. And addiction sucks. I've done every drug. I've smoked and snorted everything other. The only thing I didn't do was put a needle in my arm. Thank God. It's definitely, in fact, I was just talking to a guy the other day, and I said, you know what? I said, it's crazy. I said, I don't even remember what a hangover feels like anymore. I said, I remember the pain of what it felt like to be in addiction feels like, because I hope I never forget that. But having that feeling of being sick in the morning, I forget what that's like, and I don't ever want to feel it again because, in addiction, I 100% believe that diet and exercise is so important. And so, I get up, I go to the gym, not every morning. I try to go as often as I can. But it's like you said, Glenn, I wake up with a purpose now, and my purpose now is not to get fucked up. It's how I can be just a little bit better of a person every day and to help other people and, just strive to be a little bit better. Before I just always I wished that I could be better, but I'd always fucking take 2 or 3 steps back because I was either getting high or drunk and then feeling sorry for myself and ashamed of my decisions and guilt and blah, blah, blah. Now it's like I wake up and I'm driven to do just a little bit better every day. And it's like if there's a downtime or something and I don't get as much done, I don't beat myself up as much because I'm like, all right, you know what, just get after it now instead of making excuses and sitting in my head and, forming a committee inside my head and fighting against myself and shit all day, because I used to do that for hours. So I did it in my sobriety for the first couple of years, that I would fight my demons inside my head of not wanting to do this, not wanting to do this. And I think that is probably one of the coolest things now, is just being able to get up freely. And it's a new freedom, man. I mean, it's like, it's a different way to live. And it feels good to have a fucking purpose in life, to wake up in the morning and be like, all right, let's fucking get busy. Let's do some shit. Let's help some people. I mean, my business has gotten better. We started a second business. My fucking kids love the shit out of me now. They're like, man, this dad's cool as hell, man. I'm like, I talk to my kids like I talk to you, and they call me. I got one son, he's 22. He's almost got his pilot's license, and he's doing it all himself. He's doing the schooling. He's gotten his own loan to get through his flight classes now. My youngest one just graduated high school, and he's taken up golf. He just shot a 77 yesterday at 18 years old. And I'm like, I've never shot that low in my life. But, the thing that's crazy is I recognize now that my youngest son is exactly like me, but completely different than me. And I'm so proud of him because he's 18 years old. and he's never had a drop of alcohol. He's never had any nicotine. He's never had any drugs, and he doesn't want any. And that's what he says his goal is. Like, I bought him an 18-year sobriety chip for his birthday because he wanted one. He's like, Dad, I got more sobriety than you do, so fuck you now. I was like, awesome. But it's just cool to look and be able to look back now and see that. Because when I went to treatment and when I was in my worst addiction, I thought I'd completely screwed up my life. I thought I completely screwed up my relationship with my kids, and it's better now than it's ever been, and it's only going to get better and better. And I don't know. I'm so fucking thankful and grateful for recovery and given the second chance, the opportunity to become the person that I want to be, because I'm just getting started with it too, man. I mean, that's what's so kick-ass about getting another opportunity to start a new life is now I can take it as high as I want. Before I had limitations because my limitations were cut at the knees. Every morning I woke up. Now I'm just watering the grass every day, man, and just feeding the shit, and let's get busy. And so it's and I appreciate this opportunity to sit here in front of you too, to be able, because I just, fuck, more than anything, man, I wake up, my main purpose in the morning is if I can just help one person that day, and that's it. And if it's more than one, then that's a blessing in itself, but just one person, and that's including myself too. I want to help myself every day just a little bit more, because then it just gets better and better.